You don't have to be the biggest retro gamer in the world to appreciate the joy of going back to the classics, to the games of your childhood, and just having a good time playing those early games. But this is a hobby that is in danger. For a number of reasons, retro gaming is dying. Retro gaming is on its last legs. One of the main reasons for this is simply that games degrade over time. Physical copies of games aren't going to last forever. There's only so many of them. Publishers aren't releasing more of them. And the ones that do exist, if they're not being taken by collectors and then kept locked away in some sweaty guy's basement so the rest of the world can never use it, then it's possible for it to just get damaged. It only takes one World of Warcraft player to sit on a game for it to be destroyed forever. Games are going to degrade even if you do nothing to them. Just over time, wear and tear. Playing a game, actually enjoying a game, will eventually cause it to be damaged. There's a lot that can go wrong to degrade a physical copy of a game. And with there only being a limited number of the games out there, this means that they become lesser and lesser and become more and more expensive, which causes problems as most of us can't afford a game for $2,000. So that's the first problem. Less and less people are able to enjoy retro games. Now, the solution to this problem is pretty obvious. You emulate the games. You just play them on a computer or on a console like the Steam Deck, which is essentially just a computer, on an emulation. And then you're able to play whatever games you want. You can download as many as you want. Digital copies mean anyone can play retro games as much as you like on whatever machine you like, basically. And so it opens up a whole new audience for retro gaming so we can all enjoy retro games again. This seems like a cut and dry solution. Everybody can just emulate the games. There's no issue, right? The problem, Nintendo is coming after these emulators. And really other companies may do as well at any moment. Emulations aren't making these games companies any money. And they may even feel that they're actually losing money from emulation, because people who are playing these games on emulation, like myself, we're not giving money to Nintendo or other companies who own the intellectual property. And so we're taking something they see as theirs and we're, in their eyes, stealing it. And so for years now, Nintendo has been going after emulators and they're continuing to do so. And at any point, emulation could be under threat. That is legal emulation. There may be another solution. Now, I'm not encouraging piracy, but, I'm not saying not to do it either. I mean, definitely don't pirate games, of course, that's illegal. But if you happen to be a rum-drinking, 7-sea sailing person yourself, enjoying the retro games, I personally don't have a problem with that. It may be the only way to actually preserve retro games. Unless people are pirating them, they may just disappear. Games companies don't want to release new copies of old games because they're not going to make that much money. It's expensive. And oftentimes they don't even seem to want to release digital versions. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's possible to get. And if you are going to play a digital version, you need some kind of an emulator. So unless Nintendo and other companies want to release their own emulators so we can play their games, then we're going to be in trouble. And they don't all seem to want to do that. There is an enormous backlog of retro games out there on the internet which you can get from various websites. If games companies shut these down, who is going to preserve all of these games? Who's going to preserve the classics? I don't believe these big companies are going to do it because there's not enough money in it for them. So ultimately, piracy may be the only solution to preserve these classic retro games. But the harder they come down on piracy, the harder it may be to actually do that. Which is why legal retro gaming is dying and may not last. And even illegal retro gaming may become more and more difficult. We heard about Nintendo going after emulation 4 years ago. And now we're hearing about it again. They were going after this company called Lockpick. an open source emulation company, Nintendo is launching DMCA attacks against this open source project, which is just a free project for emulating games. The weirdest thing about this is that this company Lockpick, all it does is allow people to take games that they already own and take the keys and use those to be able to emulate games on their PC, but only the games that they've actually bought. And so this is a completely legal way of emulating games. You're only emulating the games that you own on Nintendo Switch. And Nintendo is still going after this and attacking this company. So it seems like no matter what, no matter how you emulate games, Nintendo is going to go after you for it. This is a very clear sign of what's to come, in my opinion. Nintendo loses no money from game emulation, even if they seem to think that they do. People are just emulating legal games that they've already bought. Then there is no loss in Nintendo's profits or bottom line. Nintendo is just intent on damaging their reputation and pissing off their entire fan base. It's gotten to the point where many people are now just encouraging you to pirate all Nintendo games, regardless of whether it's a new one or an old one. There are people who can very much afford to buy every Nintendo game, yet refuse to do so out of principle just because they disagree with what the company is doing. And I really can't fault them. There may be another solution. We may not have to sail the 7 seas of retro games. We may be able to try and convince some of these game companies that it would actually be profitable enough to release emulators and release games themselves. That way we can enjoy retro games without having to do things in a not so legal way. Ultimately, I don't really blame anyone if they do pirate Nintendo games. But if you do want to do things legally, that may be a solution. Maybe we can encourage them. We go on their Twitter, their Facebook, we go wherever, and we encourage games companies to try and solve this problem in a legal way. Bit of a Hail Mary. May not succeed, but I thought I'd try to end this on a positive note, at least. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like and subscribe.